How to get in harmony with the essence of health and well-being. Even though you have been thinking roughly the same thoughts about your body for decades, it's not going to take decades to reverse. Yes, it may take a few hours, a day, a month, but you can do it. I'm going to teach you every step along the process, but you can't just follow along and parrot my words. This is your journey, and you need to change the way you've been thinking about your body in relation to health and wellness. I can't, and nobody can do this for you. Now let's discuss if your thoughts are in harmony or not with what you want. What emotion indicates how you think about your body? Let's look at this emotional scale. This is a hierarchy of emotions. At the very bottom are the worst feeling emotions, and each emotion above it feels arguably better. At the very top are the best feeling emotional indicators, and what they indicate are levels of harmony with who you really are. At the top, this is your natural state. Your natural status is that of a healthy, happy person. This is you in complete harmony. I use the analogy of an electrical dimmer light switch, and at the top there is no resistance. The full flow of who you are is being allowed. Illness can't abide in this area. As soon as we apply resistance to the current, we start to get dimmer and less of who we really are. At the very bottom, we are in our most resistant state and letting in the least amount of light. Each level of resistance has a correlate of harmony. For example, terminal cancer would be in harmony with powerlessness, which is at the very bottom of the scale because you feel like you have no power. Stubbing one's toe would be in harmony with frustration for most people. Don't get caught up in the semantics. Words are just a signpost pointing to a concept or idea. Everyone can define emotions differently, and that's okay. Rearrange them if desired based on your own experience. The guiding principle is to reach for thoughts that indicate a better feeling emotion. So let's see how this works on the emotional scale. At the very bottom is powerlessness because there is nothing worse than feeling powerless. Now I ask, would you rather feel anger or powerless? I know those aren't two very good choices, but you have to admit you'd rather feel anger. You have a little bit of your power back in anger that you don't have in powerless despair. How we use the scale is we slowly, step by step, work our thoughts up the scale to better and better thoughts. Because each thought has a specific level of harmony that goes with it. We can tell if it's better or worse with our emotions. Each step of this journey is about leaning towards better feeling thoughts. Not instantaneously trying to think the best thought we've ever had. Just progressively a little bit better. As in, anger is better than depression. So the first question you ask yourself when you think about your specific health problem is, how does this make you feel on the scale? See if you can identify where you are regarding your problem. And wherever you are is 100% okay. Does it make you frustrated, angry, depressed, powerless? Find out where you are. So side note, if your problem makes you feel frustrated, you have to admit that you've been feeling really frustrated in your life lately. Matchy-Matchy. This is harmony. You need to make this correlation going forward that you get the essence of what you think and feel about. Our emotions let us know if our thoughts are in harmony with what we want. When we feel negative emotions, this is telling us that if we don't change our thoughts, this is going to lead us down a path in which we will not like the destination when we get there. If our thoughts feel good, we will like the destination when we get there. And if we ignore these negative emotional indicators long enough, they will get bigger until you have a physical manifestation. What does it mean, I ignored it? Like I said, when anything comes into your life, you should first ask, how does this make me feel? If you find yourself thinking disharmonic thoughts, the first indication is negative emotions. This is your inner being indicating via negative emotions to get you to stop it. It's trying to tell you that this thought path you are on will lead you to a place that you do not want to go. It's disharmonic. If you ignore it, don't worry, it'll get bigger, as in you will get stronger negative emotions. And if you ignore that, don't worry, it will get bigger. People will start to cut you off in traffic. If you ignore that, it'll get bigger. People will be rude to you. If you ignore that, it will get bigger and you're going to start to lose things. If you ignore that, you're maybe late to important meetings. If you ignore that, you're going to start to stub your toe. If you ignore that, you're going to drop and crack your phone. If you ignore that, don't worry, it'll get bigger, you'll get into fender benders. If you ignore that, don't worry, it'll get bigger, and you're going to break your leg or have some other physical manifestation that is going to force you to stop and reflect. This may be why you are here watching this video today. Going forward, you just need to be aware of what your thoughts and your emotions are trying to guide you towards and away from. All of your senses help you get to where you want to be. Your emotions have often been called your sixth sense, and they are going to be doing exactly the same thing as all your other senses are doing as well, helping you get to where you want to be. So let's get back to explaining how to move up the emotional scale. Now remember, I can't just sit here and have you follow along. You have to do the work yourself. Here is an example of someone going from the very bottom of the scale all the way to the very top. You may not be at the very bottom of the scale with your problems, so you don't have to always start at the bottom. Start from where you are. Now, the goal is to move up to the top of the scale where you think about your problem or body and you receive a positive emotional response, like knowing and joy. But where you are now, you literally can't. So how do we get to the top? Well, here's the key. You have to go up the scale one step at a time. We can't just reach for joy, knowledge, and bliss. Have you ever been angry or depressed about something and someone says, well, you should be happy? Don't you just kind of want to punch them in the face? It's exactly like going up the stairs. Trying to jump from the bottom to the top is a physical impossibility. And trying to go from powerless to bliss is similarly impossible. It's just too much too fast. Like an old analog radio, you have to move the dial through all the radio stations in the middle to get to the other side. So let's say you've been feeling powerless about your health problem. Nothing seems to be working. You feel like you've went to countless doctors and practitioners. You've tried every supplement. You've searched and tried all kinds of things. You feel powerless. So what's the next logical step up from powerlessness? Yep, anger, blame, and revenge. So I want to give yourself permission to think spiritually and socially inappropriate things. Let yourself be angry, vengeful thoughts about your problem. You may want to write this down, as in writing you have the most clarity. Nonetheless, start blaming others in your mind. Blame Western medicine, blame the hospitals, blame safety food regulators, blame polluters. You are going to first notice that in anger and blame you have a little bit of your power back. You're going to feel a little better. Now, we're not going to act on this, but let yourself go there in the mind, at least temporarily. Grant yourself permission to entertain these thoughts of anger, revenge, and blame. Why does Western medicine have to be profit-based? Why is there so much fraud? Why do they put known toxins in our food? Why does the food industry buy off politicians? I'm going to sue them with a class action lawsuit. I'm going to force them to consume their own toxins. Let's jail the politicians that made it happen. You will feel the energy moving. You will start to feel better, even enjoy it. Notice how you can breathe easier now. This is indicating that you are indeed one step closer to who you really are. Again, don't act on this, but you can do in an hour or a day or a month what therapists can't do in decades because they condemn thoughts of anger and revenge as wrong, instead of a step in the right direction. Do you remember the people from Hans's study? They did this type of cycling between anger and depression, and it didn't serve them well. So take as long as you wish, wait until all that energy sort of peters out. You will feel when there is a lull in your thoughts. Now it's time to reach for a little better feeling thoughts. Reach for thoughts like impatience, irritation, and frustration. Think about why this illness isn't healing faster. Think of how inconvenient it is to deal with this. Think about how much money you've had to spend on this issue. Think about all the driving time and research you've burned up trying to figure this out. Be irritated that you have to take time out of your life to deal with these issues. At this point on the emotional scale, you can go either way. You can go back down to anger, so be careful to lean towards a better feeling thought that's higher on the emotional scale. Once all this frustrated energy dissipates, you're going to find that similar lull again. Now this is very good because now you are at a tipping point. This is where you really start to gain harmony with what you want in your body. Let's continue and move up the scale to hope. Hopeful thoughts may be like, it is true that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. This isn't affecting every waking hour of my life. I will find something that works for me. I know there are others who have been where I am now who have found a way that works for them. I know some things will help. I am taking control of my experience. Yeah, I can figure this out. I've learned about harmony and this does make sense. With this knowledge, I think I can solve this. I do feel more hopeful after watching this video than I did before. I know others have recovered from this problem, and even worse, so can I. Solutions to problems do come to me. I even rendezvoused with this information I'm listening to right now. I've always known there is a mental component to healing. I think I'm getting this information well. I've never really learned about this topic at any doctor's office quite like this before. I think these people know what they're talking about. I know how powerful the mind is. My body is miraculous and its ability to repair and rebalance. Just keep reaching for slightly better feeling thoughts. Soon enough, you're going to tap into a knowing that you're going to be okay and you're going to solve this. I think I found the right place for me. I know the power of mind is the biggest component of healing. I'm happy I've learned how to best direct my thoughts. I'm going to be able to help a lot of people with this information and the story of my healing. I can do this. I can heal this. This is going to be fun. I've got this. I'm looking forward to making this change. I like feeling good. I like feeling good about my body. I feel good about my body. Soon enough, your thoughts will send your emotions soaring, and this is where you need to be. And now you need to habituate these great feeling thoughts. You cannot just use happy sounding words, but you actually need to reach a breaking point where you are no longer worried about this problem in your body, and you genuinely start to think better about your body 51% of the time. You have to tip the scales. If you can't feel good about thinking about your malady, then don't think about it. Because your thoughts are like a garden with your attention being the hose. Whenever you think about something, you're watering it, be it your aches and pains or vibrant health. Whatever you focus on expands in your own experiential awareness. If you can't think thoughts that give you a positive emotional indicator, then do not think about it. Think about other topics that do give you a positive emotional indicator. Again, unfortunately, this is a solo journey that only you can take. There aren't magical words, treatments, acupressure points, stances, breathing techniques, or protocols we can use to change your harmony for you. Nobody can think thoughts for you, and therefore nobody can harmonize you to anything except you. They may be able to influence you to think those thoughts, but those thoughts must originate from you unprompted. You have to do the work. Nobody can make you think any thought without your willingness to entertain it. Neurologist, psychiatrist, philosopher, and author Viktor Frankl was in the Nazi concentration camps, and he learned that the guards could make him do anything except for one thing he had unchallengeable and absolute power over, and that was his ability to think whatever thoughts he wanted to. Maybe you feel your situation is more difficult than his, and that you just can't think a better thought, but I promise you that your ability to choose your thoughts is the one thing that you have absolute 100% power over. Regarding your specific problem, every thought is where you last left it, so as long as you don't go down the emotional scale, you should be good. You might need to work yourself up the emotional scale every single day for a month. But once your emotions are soaring, at this point, things really start to move because there is a huge side effect of achieving this harmonic place about your malady or body. Your journey may not be over yet, but now you are on the right track and path towards healing. And this path is the shortest, fastest path towards healing. So now that you've tuned in and started to harmonize with a better feeling body, you will now start hearing the broadcast that is inspiration. The side effect of changing your harmony. When you feel better about your body and life, you start to harmonize with things that are in harmony with all things that match a better feeling body coming into your life. Remember America's best doctor, John Sarno? He was convinced that the body keeps manifesting problems until we deal with the seed problem, which is some sort of traumatic event in your past, that when you think about it, you will receive a negative emotional response. What's amazing is that millions of people, just reading his book and connecting their current pains with past trauma, was enough to have the pains permanently go away. And you, in learning about harmonic theory, may identically be healed as well. However, you may need an inspired practitioner protocol or another change in your life to help clear this out, And this is where one of the best things about harmony comes into play. Since you have found harmony with being whole and healthy, now information that is in harmony with your wholeness and healthiness will come across your path. For example, just like our radio analogy, once you tune in, you will hear lots of different songs, but they will all be the same genre. So when you tune in to your body being whole, now lots of different information that support you in your healing journey will come to you in synchronistic ways. The perfect books, articles, documentaries, supplements, protocols, and inspired healers will start to cross your path in a synchronistic way to help you along the way to your new vision of yourself. Because they match your harmony. Everything will feel like the next logical step. Don't think that just moving up the emotional scale will fix everything. While that may indeed be true, it's often about harmonizing with the exact best, fastest tools and protocols to help you along the way. The right path is the inspired path. Is the theory of harmony toxic positivity? While reaching for thoughts that give you the positive emotional indicator of harmony and joy, we need to remind you that this isn't about being positive all the time. Happy sounding words don't count or help. In fact, inauthentic words hinder the harmonizing process. You can't fake a blissful feeling or any feelings. The genuine thoughts need to come first. Faking it is toxic positivity, and that isn't helpful at all. Remember, you don't get what you feel positive about. You get what you are in harmony with. You didn't get your malady because you felt positive about it. You got it because you were in harmony with it. Trying to be positive when you are on the lower end of the emotional scale is toxic positivity, and it is not helping at all. Proof positive. The perfect example of harmony is Anita Morgiani, who admits that her constant fear of cancer harmonized her with cancer. When two people she knew were both diagnosed with cancer, she relayed this story in her excellent, highly recommended book, Sensitive is the New Strong. This news anchored the fear deep in me because both of these people were close to my age. I began researching everything I could about cancer and its causes. Initially, I started doing this in the hopes of helping. I wanted to be there for Sony and help her in her fight. But I found out the more I read about dis-ease, the more I was afraid of everything that could potentially cause it. I started to believe that everything created cancer: pesticides, microwaves, preservatives, genetically modified foods, sunshine, air pollution, plastic food containers, mobile phones. This obsession progressed until eventually I started to fear life itself. They were going through full treatment, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, stem cell, everything, and it didn't seem to get them any better. It increased my fear. I feared the treatment of cancer. I feared death. I wanted to do everything I could to avoid cancer. Everything I did was driven from a place of not wanting the dis-ease. My research broadened to include how to avoid cancer. I purchased all the supplements that were antioxidants and anti-cancer: curcumin, CoQ10, omega-3, chlorella, vitamin C, green tea extract. I took boatloads of supplements every day. I grew my own wheatgrass so I could take fresh wheatgrass shots every morning. I made super green smoothies and started to follow an anti-cancer diet: collard greens, kale, lentils, and lots of raw food. Back then I was obsessed. I changed my whole diet depending on the latest article I've read and the new findings. I installed reverse osmosis water system. We measured our electromagnetic readings to determine if we needed to make any drastic changes in our environment. I was determined that I wasn't going to get cancer because I was so vigilant in fighting against the illness. If I missed a dose of my gazillion supplements, I felt incredibly fearful and would make up for it by being even more vigilant. I was exhausted from my self-prescribed protocol. Working extremely hard every day, I'd keep cancer away. My focus was completely on cancer. And you know what happened? I got cancer. This shows that what you are in harmony with trumps action, so working on your harmony must be priority number one. It's more important than anything else because it has to be a bigger weight on the scale than everything else. If you are trying to improve your health but aren't working on your harmony, it doesn't matter what path you take, it won't get you to where you want to be. So if two people have identical bodies and take identical action and one of them thrives and one of them becomes riddled with disease, it's clear that it's not about action, it's about harmony. You can do the right action, but without harmony, it will fail. You can do the wrong action, and with harmony, it will succeed. To finish Anita's story, the cancer shut down all her organs and she went into a coma where she had a near-death experience where she learned to change her harmony about her body. She realized who she really was and came back. All her organs started working again, and within a week, all the cancer that riddled her entire body disappeared and the doctors couldn't find any trace or any disease in her. That is the power of harmony, because harmony is the determining factor, not action. Remember, everything in the entire universe is about harmony. That doesn't leave much else out, including your malady. I highly recommend everyone read Anita Moorjani's books, especially her first one, Dying to Be Me. Fatalism and optimism. I wonder, what is the efficacy of action if you are still in harmony with sickness or pain? All of the medical history and all of medical science shows that you can get every vaccine and booster, wear multiple masks, social distance, and run far, far, far away from all humans. And if you are in harmony with illness, you're still going to get sick. Illness will find you. For example, there are countless bacteria like tuberculosis that can be encapsulated by the immune system in lung tissue in a wall of various immune cells and do no damage for months, years, decades, even an entire lifetime. And it does this for about 95% of people. Until the immune system is stressed to a point where it can no longer keep the bacteria in check, it releases it to damage the lung tissue and spread to the rest of the body. Taking dramatic action from a place of fear is a surefire recipe for disease or countless other unwanted experiences to flourish. This isn't about being fatalistic because the law works both ways. It's a two-way street, and the opposite also may be true as well. If you are in harmony with wellness, you can have 0 vaccines, wear no masks, and literally be surrounded by disease that cannot fatalistically harm you. And this is the point of harmony. This isn't saying that one should never wear their seatbelt or wash their hands after touching something that was diseased. It's saying never take action from an emotional feeling place of lack. Because once you get in harmony with what you want, your actions will be made from a place of inspiration and connection instead of from fear and lack. From a place of security and knowing of your well-being, you may indeed be inspired to take a supplement, change your diet, wear a mask, wash your hands, or. Practitioners in the theory of harmony. I'm not saying that inspired practitioners and other medical researchers should stop practicing or creating new healing protocols. Far from it. Their inspired protocols provide a sort of temporary get-out-of-disease or pain-free card that affords people the luxury of working on themselves and our body's harmony with wellness. But work on harmony first. If your practitioner doesn't understand harmony, then you need to do it yourself. Because if you don't, there may be a time when medical science runs out of get-out-of-disease or pain-free cards for you personally. And then you may be stuck with an idiopathic, chronic, or incurable illness in which it may be more difficult to change your harmony, even though it's always possible, no matter where you stand. There are countless new diagnostic tools, new breakthrough medicines, supplements, inspired protocols, and energy workers. But it doesn't matter if you go to countless clinics and do everything to the letter that the inspired practitioner tells you to. If you haven't sat down and done the work to change your relationship with your body's harmony, your relief will only be temporary and transitory. You will just change out one problem for a new one. Nobody, not even an inspired practitioner, can force you to think the right thoughts for yourself, thereby adjusting your harmony. You have to do it yourself. Conclusion. In the early 20th century, they said they were on the cusp of a medical revolution, and the majority of diseases and maladies were going to be eradicated with vaccines and other medical advancements. And they were right. But they didn't teach people how to change their harmony, so other worse diseases took their place. And in the early 21st century, they said they're on the cusp of yet another claimed medical revolution, and the majority of diseases and maladies are going to be eradicated with stem cells, CRISPR, and other medical advancements. And I bet they are indeed, again, going to be correct, but because they still haven't taught people how to adjust their harmony, as history repeats itself, Other problems are just going to take their place. Eventually, they won't be able to diagnose or find the problem. And this is exactly what is happening with the chronic pain and idiopathic illness pandemic. We now have an outbreak of illness caused by unknown reasons. Medical science calls this idiopathic illness, and sure enough, look at the instances of idiopathic illness in the medical journals. They're skyrocketing. I'm sitting here digesting all this information, and I'm pondering, what is the use of trying any protocol if I haven't done the harmony work first? For me personally, if I had a health problem and I knew I hadn't stopped and sat down and really worked on my harmony, would I personally ever participate in any therapy? No, not in a million years, no matter how promising or effective it was. Because even if there was a 100% probability I would be cured, the theory of harmony and all medical history points to the same thing. My lack of harmony would just cause another malady to manifest itself in another way, possibly something worse, or maybe something with no known cure. And the devil I know may be better than the devil I don't. So often, an inspired practitioner comes up with a prolific and inspired healing protocol that heals a formerly incurable malady. And they meet with great success, even fame. But if the patient doesn't change their harmony, and while indeed their current problem disappears, what you never see or hear about is a new problem under a different diagnosis or unknown name comes back into their life. You've got to change your harmony first. And I'm guessing you don't need to study science because you've already had enough first-hand evidence in your life. And I bet you've seen this in the life of your friends and family. It just seems like one thing after another. It seems like there's always another problem popping up, just like whack-a-mole. And you can see now that it was because of what they were in harmony with. And still, science can't numerically measure harmony. Emotions are too hard to measure with existing technology, but just because something isn't easily measured doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Germs also didn't exist according to medical science before the microscope. But we don't really need any medical device that can measure our harmony because that's exactly what emotions are. Sure, you can see emotional harmonic evidence all over the place, with different names like I mentioned before. But what could be more simple and accessible than emotions? The path to healing is already built in you. Good means good, better feelings closer to who you really are. Negative emotions indicate further from who you really are and where you want to go. In fact, there's so much overwhelming evidence and so little statistical probability that it's wrong. I'm going to be bold and change this from my theory of harmony to the law of harmony. When you understand harmony, you start to understand everything: money, relationships, health. And since it's a law, you can apply the same, raising your thoughts on all topics. But those are subjects for another video. Good luck on your healing journey.